Hey everybody, Keep Seven Gaming here. The intro audio got cut off a little bit, so just going to start the video kind of in the meat and potatoes, kind of giving you the updates as to where we are. But this video is just kind of a quick news update. Wizard sent out a very interesting tweet yesterday on the 26th, late at night, I think around 7 p.m. And this is me just discussing what they said and possibilities as to where we go from here and what is going to be happening. Wizards actually sent out a tweet from their official Twitter that says, on Monday, June 1st, there will be an update to the banned and restricted list impacting the standard and historic formats that will also address the companion mechanic. So, I think it's pretty obvious what they're referring to, unless I'm totally wrong, but I'm pretty excited about it. But I think either Luca, Coppercoat, or Agent of Treachery is probably going to get added to the banned list. I think that they probably recognized in the past few tournaments, I mean, people have been reporting win percentages of up to about 60%, which is absurd with the Luca Agent Yorian combo. And I think that I think it's either Agent and or Luca that's going to be getting banned. I doubt it's Luca. It more than likely is going to be Agent. I think that card's going to go. Which is unfortunate because I think it should be Luca, but the fact that they just came out with him, I mean, they did it with Oko, right? They banned Oko shortly after they realized how broken that card was. So maybe they'll have the same foresight here and get rid of Luca because, even if they get rid of Luca, or even if they get rid of Agent of Treachery, I think the meta just shifts to a different Luca broken system where Luca, instead of Agent of Treachery, farts out something like Endray's Forerunners or Yadaro or something like that. Some like big hasty creature, and then it just becomes kind of like Fires of Invention all over again. It becomes like Jeskai Fires, a different version of Jeskai Fires, right? It just becomes Fires of Invention into Luca and then into your big bomb. Or maybe Jeskai, or maybe, Fires of Invention just becomes that much stronger again. Who knows? But I think the meta would shift to Luca into exiling something into Yadaro, or Luca exiling Endray's Forerunner, something like that. So I think if they ban Agent of Treachery, the meta, instead of shifting entirely, would shift towards just another Luca into exiling something out to get a bomb on the battlefield. And I think that's what would happen if they get rid of Agent of Treachery. If they get rid of Luca, Coppercoat, whatever his face, I'll hover over that so you might be able to read it. But if they get rid of Luca, the meta, when I say meta shifts, I just mean it would shift from the Luca Yorian decks back to probably close to what it was at the end of the last set. So, back to the Azorius Control, back to Mono Red. Mono Red might come back. Mono Red has a pretty good ability to actually attack underneath the Luca Agent decks. But if they're able to get their combo off at turn 4 or 5, that's pretty much it. They can just steal lands or steal the board from Mono Red, which I think is one of the reasons Mono Red became somewhat absent from the top tier decks. So potentially Mono Red comes back, things like Embercleave, the Fires decks. I think the Kahira Fires decks become stronger. I think Jeskai Fires become stronger again. If you don't have something out there that's stealing all your stuff, stealing all your lands on turn 4, a lot of the decks that were popular at the end of last season become popular again. Bant Ramp, Sultai Ramp, things like that. So I think if I could choose, I would tell Wizards to get rid of Luca. But I think because he just came out, I don't think that they're going to do that. I think it's going to be Agent is going to get the ban hammer. And two things that they said specifically that stuck out to me were standard and historic. And I think in the historic format, the Luca Agent Yorian deck has kind of infested itself or embedded itself in the historic format as well, which sucks. Why would you touch historic like that? Why would you destroy all your formats with this disgusting deck in the first place? But they did, and I think they're seeing that it was a bad move, and it's ruining a lot of different formats, and it's showing up almost everywhere and making the game not very fun. So it has to be one of the two, or both. That would be crazy, but I think Agent gets the ban, and it won't be available in Historic, or maybe, who knows, maybe they do a weird combination, but, of one out of Historic and one out of Standard or something like that, but I think it was ruining both formats, and I think they've recognized it, and I think that they're going to get rid of one or the other. So keep your ears open. We'll see what happens on Monday, see what's banned. But they also mentioned something about the companion mechanic, which is super interesting because I don't really know what they could be doing to change the companion mechanic. I think they said they're doing something to address it will also address the companion mechanic. So they're updating the ban list. So to me, that screams Agent or Luca is getting added to the ban list for both Standard and Historic, which will be great. And then they're doing something to address the companion mechanic. I don't know, I guess that's pretty ambiguous what they could be doing. I think that the companion mechanic is really interesting. I like it, but it definitely, the player in a matchup who has a companion versus the player who doesn't, the player with one obviously has a huge advantage. They have an 8th card that they can play at any time. And when you're playing companions like Lurrus, Yorion, there's just so much value that they bring to the table that if you're on the play with a companion and your opponent is not on the play without a companion, unless it's a really whack matchup, it's pretty much game. So I don't really know what changes they could be making. I don't know how they could address the companion mechanic, maybe. But I do think that the companion mechanic is a little unfair for those players, who, there are so few companions that you pretty much have to build one of the meta decks that follows one of these, one of the companion mechanics. And if you're not playing into one of those meta decks that plays into one of these mechanics, you're probably, if you make some other deck that's not a meta deck or, a top tier deck that follows one of these mechanics, it's just not going to survive against the ones that are. When Agent and or Luca goes away, maybe that changes. But having to abide by some of these things and building a deck kind of with these parameters can be pretty difficult. And especially if you want it to be competitive. So I don't really know what they could be doing to address this to try to make it more even, or more fair. But I'm definitely interested to see what they do. It could be very interesting to see what ends up happening. I'm just trying to brainstorm. Like what could they possibly change? Maybe once a companion has died, it gets exiled rather than going to the graveyard, so it can be recast or something like that. But that's just like that's just too much. That changes the whole nature of the game. They would have to literally like reprint cards or something, or like make a specific rule about the companion mechanic. Like when this creature died, like companion, it says companion like off there to the left now. Maybe they add that, what companion mechanic also means when this creature dies, it is exiled. So that, if one of these creatures is removed, then they're gone. But I don't know. That just makes them super weak, but at the same time, they are super strong right now. So, allowing them to come down, but then to be removed pretty easily would require that you make your deck pretty strong without keeping in mind that you have an 8th card. But I don't know. I really don't know what they could be doing, but I'm interested to see, because I'm sure the people at Wizards are a million times smarter than me, so they'll probably figure out a way to hopefully make it a little bit more balanced, especially for those people who don't have the ability to add. Maybe they have a deck that they really like and it just doesn't abide by any of these, because how many do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We have 4, 6. Wow, good math, Henry. So we have 6 companions. We have 10 companions and 10 parameters to build around. There's just not enough where, there's so many decks, there's infinite amount of decks that you could build, and 99% of them don't abide by these parameters. So, the decks that do, the handful of decks that allow for this, that are considered competitive and good, it just, although it makes for a diverse meta, it makes for a diverse top tier, it doesn't allow for, new, janky, weird, experimental decks to come into the fold, because if they don't abide by these, they're just not going to work. I mean, there's plenty of things you could do to make it all work, but I mean, the easiest companion to make a deck around would be Yorion. You just make an 80 card pile of some stuff that you like, and either blue or white, or blue and white, and splash any other color you want. And then the rest of these are pretty restrictive, though, so I don't know. They're addressing it in some way, so I guess we just got to keep our ears to the ground and see what happens on Monday, June 1st. But for right now, I'm excited. It's going to be a couple more days of pain, a couple more days of having your stuff stolen. But if Luca and Agent do get the ban hammer, things could be changing, and could be changing for the better. So, if I like that they came out with this tweet. I like that something is changing in the near future. It's unfortunate that it took a season of pain for it to happen, but we're through this season. We're through the worst of it, and then hopefully on the 1st we'll find out kind of where things go, and we'll see kind of how the meta shifts, if it does at all. Again, if Agent gets the ban hammer, I don't think a lot is going to be changing. I think the meta is going to stay with Luca, cheating something out by turn 4 with fires, and with his -2 ability. It'll just be something like, again, I think Endray's Forerunners. Could be Endray's Forerunners. And then alternatively, I think could be Ilrog. I think Yadaro, some hasty big creature, could be kind of what he's cheating out. So I think these are the kind of things that you're gonna be seeing. So if Agent gets a ban hammer, I don't think much changes. I think instead of just having your stuff stolen, you have just another Fires deck that gets something impossibly big out that you have no idea how to handle on turn 4. Either that's the way the meta shifts, or they ban Luca, and then I think everything kind of shifts back to what it was at the end of last season, potentially. There are still strong companion decks out there, the Luris deck, the cycling deck, but I think things like Sultai Ramp, I think things like Bant Ramp, I think those things, there is the Bant Yorion deck out there, but the Bant Yorion deck also features Agent of Treachery. So if Agent of Treachery is out of there, the old Bant Ramp deck, just the Uro and Teferi and Nissa, that deck, I think that could potentially see more play again. But I don't know. With these new companion mechanics, maybe other decks get brewed up again. I think the Kahira Fires deck becomes a lot better without Agent in the meta. So I think there's a lot of changes that could be made, but if anything, without Agent or without Luca, we'll see more or less the same stuff, but potentially maybe kind of reverting to what the last expansion's meta was. But who knows? Could move on to something entirely new and awesome. So excited to see what happens, but for now, we'll just have to wait till Monday. Thanks for watching.